We're live!
Yay!
Hooray!
Yay!
We had a lot of difficulties getting this live show started, but we're all here and we're all ready.
Ready to party.
We are discussing Internment by Samira Ahmed tonight. Does anybody have the book to show?
It's downstairs. Whoops.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Maddie does.
I've got it.
He has one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I libraried it.
Yeah, so did I. I got it from the I got it from Hoopla, I think, or something. Or no, I used I can't think of the name of it. Anyway,
Audible.
Thank you. Let's all introduce ourselves. I'm Cassie. You're on my channel, MissSassyKassie. I am the co-host of Sassy Book Club, and if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And then I'd like Chelsea to go next.
Hello, Chelsea, channel Chelsea Nolling Reads. I also co-host the book club. Hello.
And then how about Saajid?
Hi, I'm Saajid from the channel Book My Social Life.
And Joce?
I'm Joce. I have a channel called Squibbles Reads, which I've taken a very, very long hiatus from. Do I even have a channel anymore? Who the fuck knows? But mostly I blog over on the Quiet Pond now.
Perfect. What is the name of the blog? I haven't added that.
It's called thequietpond.com.
The Quiet Pond. Okay. And Tehreem?
I don't know how to do that. Okay, so I'm Tehreem.
Your name and your channel name.
Okay, I'm Tehreem, and my channel is called Third Page, and I'm very new, so I literally joined in March, and I haven't uploaded anything in April because I've got exams, and I don't know how people do this.
It takes a lot of practice.
It does. It's practice.
And Madi.
All right. My name is Maddie. I'm from the channel The Book Pusher.
Perfect. Do we want to go down the line and give a non-spoiler, like, star review and feelings about it? That
Sure.
sound good? I think I gave it, if I remember correctly, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. There were a few things that felt like too easily wrapped up at the end, and that's why I knocked off a star. But this was like an emotional read. It was hard, and it was it kind of gave like suspense thriller feelings for me reading it. Like it was really just an intense read for me. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Random question. Is the chat updating for anyone?
There might just not be people there. Hello. You out there?
Okay. Just wanted to double check.
Nobody talking to us, shouting to the void. My thoughts, I just finished it today and I haven't decided on a rating. I enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. But I don't know. I can't settle on a rating. I was thinking of waiting until after we discussed, to really like decide. I did enjoy it, but I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's still too fresh. Yeah.
Cool. Who? Yeah.
Okay, well, me? Okay, sorry. Don't know how to do this. Okay, well, I also finished it today, and my thoughts are all over the place. It gave me a lot to think about. And I think I ended up giving it a 4. I really, really enjoyed it, and I kind of went a little excessive with
Are we losing him?
the annotation. So
We lost you a little bit at the end. Yes.
can you all hear me now? Okay, great. I was saying I annotated quite a lot, so it gave me a lot to think about. I ended up giving it like a 4 stars. Am I okay? Great.
Yeah, that time we got you. Yeah.
I would also give it a 4 stars. I feel like it's just very like relevant. I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like there was a lot of stuff that I could just kind of like dismantle, and I wanted to write in the book a lot, even though it was a library book. It's like, don't write in it.
Don't write in it.
Don't write in it. I really, really enjoyed it. I think it was just a lot to think about. It was I expected it to be heavy, and it was. So it delivered, I think, on all fronts for me.
Awesome. Tehreem?
Yeah, it's quite fresh for me as well, but I think I'd give it like 4 stars. But I don't know, I feel like the ending should have just been longer because I was kind of hoping we'd see her afterwards as well. But other than that, it kind of gave me like 1984 vibes, how like everyone was being watched all the time, and it just gave me like the same. I don't know, I felt really panicky about it, which was really weird. I've never had that except for 1984. But yeah.
Panicky, that's a good description.
It was very intense.
That's the word, intense. But it's 3 a.m. here, so just that's my excuse for everything.
Maddie?
Yeah, I gave it kind of like 2.5 to 3 stars. I liked it, but as Tehreem was saying, it does have that 1984 vibe, Fahrenheit 451 vibes. And dystopian for me isn't one of my favorite genres, but I felt like it was going between like the YA writing style and not kind of going into the dystopian writing style as much as I would want it to. So that's why it ended up being a little bit of a lower rating for me. And also the heavy romance was a little bit much too. So
yeah, I'm a big romance reader, and for me it was like, is this the time?
Is this the place? Is this really necessary right now?
Did you say a 3 stars, or I'm sorry, I missed your rating?
Yeah, like closer, like in between 2 to 3 stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think probably we need to warn for spoilers at this point. I don't think we can talk much more without going into some details. So you guys watching, if you haven't read it and you don't want to be spoiled, now's the time. Or stay and be spoiled. This is your warning. So don't yell at us. No
we have
yelling.
2 Saajid.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's
I don't know what happened
down there.
My laptop is doing it.
Real meta.
But no, just doesn't sound like a bad thing though.
Oh no, but now I can't hear Saajid.
Oh no.
Did you eject the wrong one?
No, I can see this Saajid moving, but this is the technical difficulty that I'm having.
I'm just gonna bye.
So for those of you watching who don't know this backstory, there's something going on with my computer where if I join the call and then somebody joins after me, for some reason I can't hear them. So if I'm the last person, then we're all set. But so now Saajid left and came back and I can't hear him. So should we just go forward and I will like fail and just pretend that I can hear Saajid and I'll have to watch it back to hear his thoughts? Or what do you think, Chelsea? Help me.
I mean, how about I translate as much as I can for you?
Okay.
I'll sum up what he says for you.
You want to just type in the little chat?
That's a good idea.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Just for me? Okay, great. So I apologize if I like accidentally interrupt you, Saajid, since I can't hear you.
He was just talking that whole time.
We'll all just like make a lot of motion.
Oh my god.
I'll do that when I'm speaking.
Chelsea, you should moderate then, because I can't hear one of our people.
Okay, well then I'm gonna go ahead and take over. Why don't we go ahead and move on into spoiler territory now? If you do not want to be spoiled for Internment by Samira Ahmed, now would be the time to go. Because we're gonna get into spoilers. Pretty self-explanatory. Oh, we didn't even do a synopsis, really. Cassie, you want to go ahead and give a synopsis?
Oh God. Okay. This book is about a girl who is in the high school age range. She's like a junior or a senior when this all goes down, and it's like this alternate reality where if things were to keep going worse than they are going right this exact minute in history, then all of the Muslims in America are being interned, like similar to how the Japanese were interned back during World War II days. And so she's a Muslim, and her family get put into this internment camp. And it's just this dystopian version of kind of what we're dealing with already in America. Does that about sum it up?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Cool.
I liked in the author's note, they said that it's set 15 minutes in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, I like that.
sure fucking is.
Yep.
All right, so officially heading into spoiler zone. If you don't want to be, goodbye. Giving you time, but we're gonna go ahead and spoil things now. Does anyone have any specific subject they would like to start off with, like, or a part of the book, or
Can we talk about the
anything?
boyfriend?
We
Yeah,
can.
How do we feel about the boyfriend?
Let's do it.
Maddie is shaking her head. Hard no.
He was not my favorite part of the book. Like he was an interesting character, and I love their relationship, especially that's like what she starts off. But she ends up like kind of liking the guard too. Everyone froze on me. Oh no, you're just listening. Okay,
No, we're just listening to you.
Okay. And even like everyone's like, oh, you can't trust this other dude, like the entire storyline. But her boyfriend's there the entire time trying to help her.
Yeah. It's like, it's very, it's believable to me that obviously she would have a boyfriend beforehand. But like, these kids are how old? And like, I know the layout of where they are. You know, like I've been to Independence, California. Like I know where they are. And it's so just like not feasible to think that like this 16-year-old would drive. Like, I don't know. It was weird. I didn't think the romance was going to be there.
I didn't really care for the romance either, and I found that like both aspects of the romance were just kind of something to push the plot forward. So with the David, her real boyfriend or her first boyfriend or whatever, he was just kind of there to share her message and to share her blog posts and whatever. And then the other guy, I found that we didn't really get much of him per se. It was just him helping her out. He was just kind of a means to push the plot forward. So I really love this story, but my only issue was the two guys in particular, Jake and David. I felt like they didn't really serve any major purpose other than to push the plot forward, kind of. And the people who I really felt connected to was more like her friends, like Aisha and Sohail and stuff.
I'm just trying to dictate as you talk. So Cassie can be involved. This is a mess. Oh.
It doesn't matter to me.
I didn't.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my
was surprised.
laptop disconnected me. I didn't do anything. So that's what happened.
Huh?
So we're losing you a little bit again.
I'm so confused. Saajid, I can hear you, I think. I don't know what happened though. You said you thought you were disconnected, but you're not.
Oh no, I was saying that my laptop disconnected me before. That's why
Oh. You good.
We're good.
That's why Cassie can't hear me. That's why Cassie can't hear me now.
Carry on.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is really hard. I was surprised that it didn't turn into a love triangle, and I was like anxiously awaiting for it to do the thing that I didn't want it to do, but it never did the thing that I didn't want it to do. But it's still, so it was like frustrating to read because I was just waiting for this plot line to happen of this like older man who she turned in love with, and I was like, no, don't want that. But then it didn't happen, but it still gave me that feeling. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That totally makes sense. Yeah, because I got that feeling too. I was just like, please don't let it be like the boyfriend on the outside and then like the nice guard on the inside thing. Like that would like totally wreck it for me. And I was like waiting for it, and there were kind of like inklings of it, and I was like, do I like this? Is this the triangle? Or do I not like this? But I don't like the boyfriend anyways. Like Saajid was saying, like I feel like you could have just like replaced him with like her friend outside, and it would have like done the same thing. Like she would have like transferred the information and published the information. So it was boyfriend.
Why couldn't we have seen some female friendship in that same
scenario?
Yeah.
I like the friend that she did make like going to the camp. She was amazing. And like Sophia, like they're amazing.
Yeah, they were really nice.
I found it weird how she didn't have any friends on the outside though. Like, it literally just mentioned the boyfriend. So did she not have any other friends that like cared enough to come? I don't know. You know, like they didn't notice.
Message where she said, like I was in soccer at school and leadership and band or something, but I never like made any very close friends. I just had like acquaintances and like these extracurricular things at school, and the person that I was closest to on the outside was my boyfriend. I think she mentioned briefly that like she couldn't trust anyone really. But there was definitely like a small paragraph where she said that she only had acquaintances and like these extracurricular things at school.
It's interesting that like in her school environment she wasn't able to make friends, but then in the like length of the book she made like a whole group of friends. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I also think that it was interesting that whenever the guard would sneak in her boyfriend, they just immediately start making out.
I'm melted in his arms. I'm like, honey.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
Blog post.
There was nothing
caught.
about it.
Like,
I
make
didn't
this
feel
quick.
anything. I was like, oh, okay. One thing I found interesting was the surveillance.
Nope.
I agree. Hold on.
Situation that was happening.
Oh no.
And that really made me feel
Booger.
that.
No, Booger walked in front of my thing. I don't know what
Y'all could
happened.
hear me?
Sorry. Hold on. I can't see anything. What else could go wrong? Booger like stepped on the wrong key on the keyboard.
Oh no.
Oh,
This
my
is Sassy Book Club brand though.
God. Yeah.
Like,
That's fine. I think
happens every
we're still doing what we need to do.
Saajid was saying that he found the surveillance aspects really interesting, which I agree with.
Yeah. So with these surveillance,
also
it really
felt,
made me
though-
uncomfortable because.
Hold on.
so.
Sorry. Finish, Saajid. This. Oh boy.
Okay, I'll just make this point really quick. There was, in talking about the surveillance and and all of that kind of stuff, there was this point where she was talking about how some people were saying that they weren't Muslim or that they were trying to lie and say that they are not Muslim so that they wouldn't be in the internment camps, and they kind of had to, they wanted to kind of cover up the truth so that they would avoid the incrimination. And that was something that made me very uncomfortable because that's something that I have actually experienced once. So in Trinidad, I don't really experience Islamophobia, but I went to the States once and I was held back with my mom and my brother in the airport, and they interrogated us for about 6 hours. They mostly focused on my brother though, because my brother so happened to walk with a Quran in his backpack, and that was like a red flag for them. And it was one of the most traumatizing experiences ever because I witnessed them deport a Jamaican. It was like such a horrible thing to see, and I really related to her when she was talking about how, you know, you can't really hide your truth, you can't really cover it up, you just have to be 100% honest with them, because at the end of the day you didn't do anything wrong. And you know, it just sucks to kind of be incriminated for something, for doing nothing wrong, essentially. I'm sorry if I just made the whole thing like heavy and tension heavy, but
no. Thank you for sharing that.
That's terrible. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was like 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I was like 16, and it was the most mortifying experience ever because I didn't know what was going to happen. Were we going to be deported? Were they going to keep us overnight? And I felt exactly like how she felt when she just didn't know, like how Layla or Lila, the main protagonist, felt when she just didn't know what was going to happen to her, what their fate was going to be. And obviously it's like not as big of a deal because it was just either they send us home or they let us stay, as opposed to them being in the internment camp or whatever. But it was still extremely traumatizing. They did let us stay eventually after 6 hours, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life, and I hope to never go through that again. But it was still extremely traumatizing. They did let us stay eventually after 6 hours, and
There's an echo.
One of the worst.
Who has it on? Is it Cassie?
Sorry, I didn't realize you would be able to hear it. Because I
Oh.
have headphones on. It's my fault.
Are your headphones plugged in? Out of curiosity. Weird. But that was a really very personal thing that Saajid shared. Thank you for sharing that with us. Fuck, man. This book, it definitely, like, it's a YA book. So it has kind of like a hopeful tone towards the end. Not that all YA has that. But it really makes you think about, you know, not everything has hopeful like tones like that, and it's just like, fuck, ugh. I don't even like thinking about it.
Yeah, I think just like with what Saajid, like you experienced, it's kind of like how many people when they walk through the airport, when they go to like LAX or whatever, has to think about, you know, can I not pack my holy book in my backpack because, you know, there's a chance that I could be detained for 6 hours. And then also there's kind of like a parallel to that and the book. And like you said, obviously they're not the same experience. But for example, like in the book, there were like some older adults in the internment camp that were like, oh, we are going to put on our forms that we are Muslim, even though we will be detained and put in the internment camp for it. And some of the younger people in the camp were like, why did you even put that on your form? Like, if you had not put that on your form, then we would be out there. We would be, you know, not experiencing all this stuff inside the camp. So it's just kind of like when you are detained for 6 hours in the airport, it's like going through your mind, like, what can I say? What should I say about why this Bible or the Quran is in my bag? And, you know, just all these things that a lot of people, when they walk through the airport, don't have to think about because they don't have the Quran in their backpack, or they don't look a certain way, or their skin isn't deep, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, like now, ever since then, whenever I'm traveling, I would literally be conscious of what I'm packing. So I would never, for example, walk with a book like this, or a book that has any kind of thing to do with Muslims or America. Any book that has any like leftist content or whatever, I just avoid walking with it whatsoever, because I know that if they put in, everybody who does.
Damn. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to talk about in specific or share in regards to internment?
I don't know if I'm changing the subject, but we were talking, there was a moment where we were talking about the people, like the ability of people watching everything, and like how they were being watched and everything. And I found it just like at times it felt really creepy, but then at times it felt really convenient that they could go in certain places and everything was fine. It just, yeah, it felt a little bit convenient. So parts of the story, that's, I think, where that 1 star is knocked off, because like overall the story is so captivating, sounds like the wrong word, but like, so, you know, you're really taken into this world and it's scary. But then there are moments where I would just, it would take me out of the story because that felt too easy. So yeah, I could talk about some other different things about that too, but I don't want to go too off on a tangent since I don't know where we were.
That just kind of makes me think of, like, I don't know about you guys, but aside from Madi, I would say most of us have relatively positive views towards this book. But prior to reading it, I feel like I had seen so much negativity and so much people saying like, oh, you know, like the premise of this is very important. The things that happen are very important. The message is very important, but the book itself isn't very good. And I personally, I was just like, after reading it, I went into it very hesitant because of seeing so many reviews like that. I just don't agree. Like, I don't know what about this book, I've seen pretty much every review I've seen of this has been a negative review outside of this live show. And it's really interesting to me because I did not feel that way at all. And I just wondering if you guys had any thoughts on that, because I thought it was strange.
I was expecting to give it like a 3
yeah, like
stars.
I definitely. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you know when he's done.
Yeah, I was expecting to give it like 3 stars or so because of the way that a lot of people just didn't like it. They were saying things like the writing wasn't great. And I could definitely tell at some point, you know, perhaps Samira Ahmed was being a little bit, trying to be a little bit quotable or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a little bit flowery at times, but overall, I thought that the story was well laid out. I thought that the writing was fine. I thought that the messaging was amazing. I thought it was a really interesting look at how, you know, this kind of thing could, you know, happen any minute. It's an interesting story because it shows us that dystopian and contemporary are not mutually exclusive. And in fact, today, there are Muslims across the world living in dystopian experiences if you look at places like Palestine. So I think that this book does more good than it does bad. So I'm not really quite, I'd have to go and read some of the Goodreads reviews to really see what issue people had with it. Because for me, I thought it was fantastic. The only thing I didn't really like was I didn't connect with the characters that much. I liked them. I liked the main character, Layla. I liked her friends and stuff, but I just felt like I couldn't connect with them that much. And that's why I gave it 4 stars. But otherwise, I think it's a pretty damn good book.
I agree. Yeah, I'm personally in between like a 3 and a 4. Probably after this, like I would say more of a 4. But it's interesting what you're saying about like, you know, dystopian and contemporary aren't mutually exclusive. And like, if you think about now, like in contemporary times, like what's happening on the border in the United States, you know, like there's kids in camps right now. Like, Cassie, Cassie, did you have something you wanted to add?
About, give me a general.
Well, you had something you were going to say, is what I'm asking. I guess I shouldn't say add.
I don't remember what it was. I was going to say like, for like everyone, I'm surprised that everyone like disliked it, because even though there are things that I could definitely nitpick at, like I could nitpick at some of the stuff that it feels a little bit convenient. Like the ending, I think wrapped up a little bit too easy for me. I think really if I tried to put into words my one issue with this book is that I think she took too big of a plot for one, like for the time frame that she gave her story, it was too fast. Like to start the process of internment camps and then to end completely in the country the process of internment camps all within like, they're not in it for that long, if I remember correctly. It just didn't seem believable that that's how quick, because the government doesn't move quick, like ever. So
yeah,
not possible. It would not have been that fast.
Yeah, that's probably like my number one, like that and the romance. Like it did move really fast. But a lot of the complaints that I've seen are people saying that like the book was spoon feeding the message to people. And I'm like, but like you're getting exactly what you like. I got exactly out of this what I expected to get out of it. Like I think that people who are saying like you're spoon fed the message, like that's what did you expect?
When you read the blurb, like that's literally what the blurb is saying.
Yeah, like it's what do you expect from like a 300-page book? You know, like I don't know. I thought it was dumb.
It's a weird complaint.
So I was pleasantly surprised by the book, basically after all of the negativity that I had seen.
Yeah, I was also pleasantly surprised. I saw a bunch of like 2 stars on Goodreads, and like I don't put up with shit, guys. Like I don't do that. So I was just like ready to rip this apart, but it was great. I had like not a lot of complaints, like you guys were saying. Like I found the boyfriend pretty irritating, and like he was irritating. Don't get me wrong, he was extremely irritating. But like the construction of his character was also a little irritating, just for the fact that you could replace him with like a friend or like a cousin or whatever on the outside. I also didn't love the way that the director was set up. I feel like there could have been like more to him rather than like bulgy veins and purple skin. That sounds like erotica. I'm never saying that again.
Save it for the group chat.
And also like it was just like slightly convenient and the pacing was off, but I don't think that should like knock off 3 stars, you know, because 2 stars is kind of like 2 stars to me is like bad. Like 2 stars is not a good book. And this was like a good book. I thought it was a good book.
I agree.
I think for me, like I just had contemporary and dystopian are like not my favorite genres at all. And when I do read dystopian, the way this book was reading, it was like it was going back and forth trying to be dystopian and contemporary YA. Like, and it was like giving me whiplash a little bit. And then I think one of my like other big problems was the director himself, because he didn't feel like a character. He felt like a mustache twirling villain at times.
Yeah.
Like he literally monologued at the end of it. And then at the end of the book, it's like, oh, we're free. And I'm like, that's not how that works. So I think that's why for me, like, I love the message. I don't think the storytelling itself was executed as well as I wanted it to be. But it's such an important book that it needs to exist. And I definitely agree. I don't understand the really low ratings that people are doing.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about the director.
Let's do it.
Because, oh my God, he was ridiculous. So, okay, he's creepy. At the beginning of the book, he was set up as a good villain, I thought. The way that you don't really see him a lot, he does that creepy, like, yeah, we're doing this for support or whatever the tagline is that the internment camp has. Like, all of that was really set up really well. And then once we got that, there was a moment that happens in the cafeteria where he slams his hands against the table or something, and I was like, there is no way that this dude would be in charge of this camp, because they would have picked someone who has a lot more control in order to sell it as a good thing, and he doesn't sell it. Like, he does not sell anywhere near this is a good thing, which, I mean, anybody who has a brain would know it's not a good thing, but yeah.
Although, look at who's the president of the United States right now.
I mean, you're not wrong.
More than 50% of the United States thinks that's a good thing. So.
Yeah.
True, but like, I don't know. It felt like, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe the fact is that I don't understand that either. So like, we could get into real politics in a minute, but like, I don't get it. We don't want to do that. We're not doing that. But like, I don't get it. And so I don't get it in the fictionalized version either, because how? I don't get it.
Did we ever even learn his name?
I can't remember his name either.
I don't think
I don't
he had a
remember.
name. He felt like a cartoon character to me. Like, the one thing about this book is that the reality and the realism of the writing makes it terrifying. But then the villain is like, ha ha ha, I will punch people in the face with Red Cross looking on. Like, no, that's...
Yeah. Tehreem, you got any thoughts? Not to put you on the spot. I just don't want to. I want to make sure we're not talking over you.
Oh no, it's fine.
We're all just like blah 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 blah.
I just found it interesting, like how his story goes. Like, he's like really strong at the start, and then he's kind of breaking towards the end. And like it's kind of like the same thing with Lila, however you say her name. Like, she starts off really strong, and she's just like, I'm going to fight this, and then she starts breaking towards the end. But then I'm also kind of like, she literally started breaking after she got punched like a few times, and I find that really weird. Like, she's all like really strong and everything, but then I don't know. It's just I feel like she broke down too quickly, but then I've not been in that situation, so I feel like it's kind of weird to say that. But I don't know. Anyone else feel like that?
I think maybe I feel like I get what you're getting at. That they kind of like switched a little, not switched, but like they kind of like had a change very quickly. I think maybe they could have like either extended it 50 pages. I think it ties into like what we were all saying is kind of like it wraps up very kind of like quickly and things change kind of very quickly towards the end. I think it could have been extended maybe like 20 pages, 30 pages, and I think that would have helped a little bit. But also, us sitting here, I'm on my laptop in a like very expensive recliner in my nursery. So what do I know about being in internment camp?
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that if you put me in internment camp, I would probably break quite quickly because I'm soft.
I'm baby.
I'm baby.
Yeah. Now the thing about Lila, she was kind of somehow compared to everybody else, she was a lot more resilient. Like, she was one of the sort of just like waiting for something to happen or whatever. And I found it interesting because her parents, and I don't know if it's because of the fact that they're like immigrants or whatever, they were like let's just kind of bide our time. Let's just stay patient and let's just hope that something happens. Because when you're an immigrant, you kind of feel like you have to conform and you have to stay quiet and you have to wait and be patient and that kind of stuff. But maybe because Layla was, I guess, I don't know, she's a lot more entitled to her rights, having had all the amenities that she's experienced during life just snatched away from her.
Wait,
Did we lose him?
I'm not sure.
I muted myself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we did lose him. Bye, Saajid. Love you. Cassie's still muted. Cassandra.
I muted myself on purpose because I'm listening to Saajid through the live show.
Oh, got it. He disappeared.
I caught that. But at least I can kind of hear him. I'm a little bit behind what you guys are hearing, but
got it. Sorry. Another question I have. I haven't read Samira's other book. Have any of you read Love, Hate, and Other Filters?
I haven't.
But Saajid has.
I was going to say,
so once
Saajid
he comes
did.
back,
Yeah.
I know he really, really likes it. So he was really anticipating this story.
Because now I had heard, I was really interested in that book. And then the same thing, I saw a bunch of negative reviews. I think we're sensing a fucking trend. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I won't read it. But now that I've read Internment and I enjoyed it, like, oh, you know what? I am going to go ahead and read Love, Hate, and Other Filters.
Maybe
because
people,
I don't trust people.
Yeah,
anymore.
there must be something about Samira Ahmed's writing that isn't sitting well with a lot of people, which is weird because I didn't notice anything in particular about her writing style that was like, ew.
No, there really wasn't. And usually, like, I am the pickiest person with writing. Like, if something annoys me, I'll rip it apart. But like, I just didn't find anything that was particularly off or like annoying. It was, I have no idea.
I feel like with this book, just because it was so like fast paced and kind of it's about a serious issue, I didn't really like pinpoint like how the writing style was, which is really weird. But yeah, it was kind of just weird.
You know, it was very fast. Like, I listened to it yesterday while I was cleaning and like doing laundry, and I listened to it like pretty much in one go. Like, I just kept it on the whole day while I was doing things, and it just like I found it completely enthralling. And I'm not someone who really reads, like, this wasn't fantasy, but like dystopian. Like, I'm a contemporary girl through and through, but I was hooked from start to finish, you know, like it was a lot more action packed than the books I typically read, but it was really good. It definitely sucked me right in.
So what did everyone think of Jake? I just want to know their opinion because somebody in the comment did say like they were sad about, you know, when Jake had that thing. But
we can talk about it. Spoilers abound. We can say
it. When Jake dies. Because he's built up really well, and I did get to a point where I really liked him as a character, and then
I liked Jake. You know what? I didn't even click until now. Obvious, like I assumed that Jake was like her peer, but clearly, you know, he worked for the National Guard. Like, he must be an adult, and I didn't even click that until we were talking about this now. And now I don't know how I feel.
I thought that he was closer to her age, like only a couple years older than her.
But still, I mean, she's a teenager, and he's
not
old enough to be in the National Guard.
Yeah.
And he was in the National Guard longer than when they started the internment camps. Like,
yeah.
Because he says something about how he didn't decide to be a part of the internment camps. He just got scheduled or whatever.
And that he was somehow ranked high enough to interact directly with the director. Yeah. So he had to have at least been, let's say, at least in his 20s. Like, we'll lowball him and say 21.
We're gonna lowball you, Jake.
Yeah, we're gonna lowball you. It didn't even click reading it that would be weird, because there was definitely romantic tension there. 100%.
It was like in like Solitary or whatever. And she was like, I just like fell into his arms or whatever. I was like, I'm slightly uncomfortable.
He died for her. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I did like him at the time, but now looking back, it's a little bit sketch.
Yeah,
Ruth just says on the page they're only 2 years age difference, which I mean isn't that bad. Like, but I think what it is that like it's an unrealistic age gap because for who he is in the military, it doesn't make any sense for him to be. I think she's 17. It doesn't make any sense for him to be 19 years old and have that high of clearance.
Right.
Plus, he's a position of power, like he's an authority figure.
Yeah, then yeah, on top of that makes it.
And where he is, and obviously where she is, he has all the power. No power.
Is Fred younger than him? Because I'm pretty sure he says something about him being younger.
I don't know. Maybe. I just think it's weird that it's like. Do you guys ever go to like theme park, like Six Flags Magic Mountain? It's run by teenagers, and I'm just like, are we gonna put teenagers in charge of these death machines? Like, you know, not what I would want to do.
All right, I think I gotta go, guys. I hear the child.
Oh, bye, baby squibble.
Bye, babe.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out, Joce.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
We'll start wrapping up because we're falling. We're losing
We're
Melanie.
losing people.
I should be able to get Saajid back in just a minute, though. I'm doing it the fancy way.
Fair. But Maddie, do you have thoughts on Jake while we kill the time?
I remember the first scene with him. I was like, no, we're not doing this. Are we doing this? Please no. And then the entire book, people are like, don't trust him. And even they have a prisoner guard conversation like, oh, that's bad. But then doesn't his friend say, oh, he has a crush on you? Like, I think there's on the page reference to him having feelings for her. And then what I felt was kind of weird was that like they have this built up relationship and then he dies. And I'm like, okay. Why though? Like it just felt weird to me. Like if you're gonna do it, just do it. Instead of just being like, oh well, this was an important character that I'm going to use as a sacrifice. Like
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think her intent was probably to be like, you know, this is war and this is what happens and like, you know, this. But I feel like the fact that we're supposed to believe and buy into the fact that like, oh, this would be the one death that would hurt her the most, you know, like that this is who she chose is a little like not convenient, but like
a stretch.
It's a weird decision. Yeah. I was also surprised that the parents didn't die because they're taken and then they didn't die. I was like,
Yeah, like the one thing about the main character is like the entire book, she's like, I'm gonna do this. And I'm like, don't though.
Yeah.
Like you were very not aware of what you could potentially do to your family.
Saajid said he thinks that he died so that she could be with David. And yes, like, so there's no concern of like a festering love or whatever.
I feel like I didn't even buy her. We talked about this already, but I didn't buy her. She had way more chemistry with Jake than with David.
Yes.
And then so whenever David would come around and she'd be like, David, it'd be like, bitch, you was just flirting with Jake. Like, get out of here.
So she never feels bad about it either.
It's like never even addressed.
I'm back.
Yay. You are back.
Oh.
I'm so happy for me and everybody.
I feel like your connection's better too.
Yeah.
Really?
Way better.
Oh,
I can see you. Before you were just like pixels.
And I could see you all a lot better too.
Hey, babe.
Hi. This is the first time I've talked to like all of you all like live before and not like chatting or in a comment section or something like that. So that's really cool.
Hey. Yeah, we talked on WhatsApp for like a minute and then I just stopped using WhatsApp.
We used to send voice notes about that book we never finished.
It was so not good.
It was hard. I gave it away. I put that shit on a table in university and told people to take it. That's how I unhauled it.
The only reason I haven't gotten rid of it is because it's technically Aldo's, or else I would have. Sorry, we're talking about a different book today.
Sorry.
Hang out with us while we hang out, guys. And Cassie can't even hear you. Just having a one-way conversation. Yeah.
No, I'm listening. I'm just behind because I'm muting it so that I can hear him on the live show, but the live show is lagged, so it's really confusing. But at least I can hear.
All right.
If I have any more thoughts on things.
Yeah, let's talk about what you have to talk about because I feel like I am just like, ooh, look.
So we're talking about David and her, and I'm kind of wondering, like, would she still be with David afterward? Like, I understand he was like a big part of their escape, but like, I feel like she'd be a different person coming out of that, like after seeing loads of people get like shot and taken away and all that stuff. So I don't know if it's realistic if she does end up with David, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why she might have just kind of ended the story with not really like it ended really fast, and maybe she did that probably because like she wants to let the reader for themselves decide what path is Lila going to take. So maybe that's why she kind of ended the book the way she did, because I also agree with you. I don't really see her being with David forever. I think the camp really changed her, and I think when David came and tried to convince her to leave by herself and to become an informer and all that kind of stuff, I think she really sort of saw that he was being a bit selfish. Even though he loved her, his motive was not to free, to dismantle the system, but was to let's try to get power within the system so that we could alleviate ourselves from oppression, but leave everybody else behind. So I think that kind of stained her mind a little bit on David, even though she did love him after, and they did make out every other time they see each other, because emotions and logic don't work together sometimes. But I don't think that, I agree with you, Tehreem. I don't think that they'll end up together in the end.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like Layla, whatever her name was, she progressed further as a person than David is right now. Like even just like with like she was talking about like the different privileges between them and whatever. I just think that she is going to soar above him mentally. I don't think they're gonna go the distance.
Yeah.
But their relationship like was so like, oh my god, I love you so much, and I'm like, y'all are teenagers, like calm down.
But I mean, that is teenage. Like, I thought that the boy I was dating in high school was the rest of my life. So.
Yeah, their love felt realistic during their, especially like before she goes to the camp. The love story there, it felt like realistic high school love. I think like what Saajid was saying, like the fact that she went to an internment camp and survived it is which I would love to see like what's going to happen in the future for them, or like where, like how basically how do they disintegrate, because it won't work anymore. Like,
yeah.
What did y'all think of like the contemporary references? Because I noticed she kept throwing a little. What did y'all think of like a little thing here and there, like when she's talking about Trump, make America great again? She like kind of does a little tidbits. I found that interesting because I think she was really trying to show that this is probably never going to happen, but if it does happen, it's justified under the current way of thinking in America. And as I said, it's like not dystopian and contemporary are not a mutually exclusive thing, because if you look at China, Muslims are actually also being put into internment camps. That's a thing that's happening there in Western China. So I found it really interesting that she tried to show, and I'm thinking about people who are not Muslim and who might be the average everyday American or whatever, who don't necessarily think like this, reading this book and saying, oh, I see the connection. I could see how this kind of thinking could lead to this sort of scenario. So I found that to be interesting.
It was very interesting. I agree with you 100%. I really like, there was a point, I don't remember exactly what it was because I had the audiobook, but it was like right around when she first got into the camp, and she was saying like, oh, and the president thinks that we need to make America great again, but I thought it was great already. Like this is my home too. Like I was born here. And it's just really interesting because it's like, all these fucking Trump, well, I don't want to single people out, but supporters of
bigotry.
Yeah. Just think that, you know, the picture of America is the way that they think it is, and it's like, bitch, please, like, open your fucking eyes.
Yeah, they forget that America has always been an immigrant country.
Yeah.
But just because they live in a town where there aren't any.
Yeah.
Yeah, the symbolism of us versus them was beautiful in the book.
I also love
the poetry.
Yeah, the poetry. Wait, what?
Like, because her dad.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Is the poet. Yeah, I really like the poetry and references, but there was this line that she said. She was like, "Have you guys read Nietzsche? He said something along this," and I was like, no.
But I think that didn't she also like punk on herself and be like, what teenager reads that? Like,
I don't know if she did, but I definitely saw that on the page and I was like, oh gosh. Like, it does make sense because that's her upbringing. Like, as a character, it does sound like she read a lot of like classics because her dad is a writer, and I think like, I don't know if both her parents were professors, but like she's obviously
a chiropractor.
Oh, chiropractor, yeah. But she's obviously very, very smart. But when she was like, Nietzsche, I was like, okay.
As we were on the topic of her parents, and she kept saying they had go into their jobs and work and whatnot. I found that to be so interesting because it really shows that when people are under like an oppressive system, and not just like today's kind of oppressive system, but like, you know, they're being put into an internment camp, they're being like, you know, watched and surveilled and whatever, like in this context, it's interesting that people will still try to live their lives. They'll still try to instill some kind of normalcy. Like they try to have the school and they try to have like a doctor's clinic and the garden and all that kind of stuff. So I found that to be kind of interesting, and how, you know, even though, and how the camp organizers were kind of capitalizing on that to show, oh look, they're living a good life and they're happy and they're being interned and they're, you know, digging up the garden and that kind of stuff. I found that to be interesting. And I don't know if y'all heard me say this before. I think it was when I was disconnected, but I was talking about how the fact that her parents are immigrants, it makes them kind of want to conform more and to not upset the system, because they kind of understand, they have that background, they know that they need to be quiet and they need to accept and they need to wait. Whereas she, growing up in America and kind of having all of these entitlements and rights and just having them being taken away, she and all the younger people wanted to rebel. They wanted to stand up where like the older people, like, let's wait, let's be patient, let's not upset anybody and die or anything and get killed or anything like that. So I found that was an interesting dichotomy between the young ones and the parents, and how the parents and the older people were more willing to kind of just make it work under the internment camp. Sorry if that was a long spiel.
No, I thought that was interesting too, because a lot of the adults, like almost all of the adults in the book, were like, don't make it, like, just go along with what they're saying, all of this. And I thought that was interesting, but like the lack of at least one adult from the get-go being like, no, like as a character, other than like the ones that she saw got dragged away. Like, it was interesting that it took most of the book for then like the little old lady to start yelling at one of the adults. I thought that was great.
That moment was one of my favorite parts of the book, when she finally goes, you should be ashamed, basically, is the sentiment. I can't remember exactly how she words it, but I love that part.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, but I forgot. There was another thing that was interesting that I wanted to talk about. It wasn't the minders. It was something to do with the minders. Oh wait, no, the divide and rule thing. I found that so interesting. How they separated all of the Muslims by ethnic groups. So they had the black Muslims, the Desi Muslims, and the Arab Muslims separate. And I was like, that is so evil but brilliant, because you know that when you separate them and you don't allow them to coagulate to a certain extent, there's going to be within that group of Muslims us versus them mentalities. So I found that to be kind of interesting, but it didn't really work out too well in the end, because I think at the end of the day they just wanted to get out. But like the intention to divide and conquer, I found to be interesting.
You right. It was very interesting. I wait for Cassie to catch up. I don't know how far behind she is.
I was here.
Oh.
I was going to say along that line, like the minders. There's that scene. It's pretty early on after the minders are introduced, I think, and the man who's in charge of Layla's area, he says something like, "We want to be the best block" or something, and so like it was kind of showing how they were supposed to be in charge, and I found it really creepy that it was their, level 1 bosses or people, whatever, were also Muslims in the community, and it was creepy.
Yeah, it kind of like an allegory for the fact that, not all of the people who are working against you are the oppressors or the people at the top. Sometimes it's your own people, and it's because they want to get some leeway within that system. Kind of like what David wanted Layla to do, to become an informer, right? Like he wanted her to gain that independence and that power to get away from that kind of oppression. So some people, their idea of resisting the system is not resisting it, but kind of going along with the flow so that they could achieve success in it and kind of transcend everybody else. Because it's a lot easier to do that than to just kind of resist and dismantle oppression. It's easier to just go along with it and see what's the best thing you could do for yourself. So in a weird way, even though I didn't like the minders, I kind of empathize, not really empathize, but understood why they were minders in the first place.
Well, didn't they say that they had them in case people didn't speak English or something? So it's like they could make them feel comfortable in the camp. And Layla was like, "We're American." So it was that part, the introduction to the camp was really well done. Like the beginning of the book is really strong.
Yeah, I agree. I think she does a good job of she did a very good job of setting up this 15 minutes in the future dystopia. That whole concept is beautiful. Scary, but beautifully written, I think. I think she did a good job of really giving us. This is one of those books that I think it kind of shows us it's a very specific pinpoint in our history right this minute. So it's not one of those books that you'll be able to read necessarily in 25 years and still go, "Oh yeah, this could be 15 minutes in the future," or something like that. I mean, dear God, I hope not, that it won't feel like that. But I also think that 25 years in the future, we'll be able to read this book and go and think back on where we were as historically and be like, wow. I don't know. I think she did a really good job with that.
True. I agree.
I thought it was interesting that it is 15 minutes in the future and the book starts with a book burning. I was like,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Because she's like, "Oh, everyone's going to be at the book burning." I'm like, "Oh, okay." For some reason, I thought she was already in the camps. I thought she was forming a resistance while being in the camp. And I enjoyed the resistance part of it, but it was another thing that I felt was convenient because she didn't really do a lot herself.
Right.
I found it interesting that we didn't get more context on the book burning. They just said that we're burning books, and then that wasn't really mentioned throughout the rest of the story. I get that they were probably trying to destroy knowledge or whatever, but I felt like it would have been interesting to kind of see what was going on outside the internment camps, because obviously that kind of signaled to us that it wasn't just the internment camps, but stuff was happening outside too, dystopian.
I definitely think that could have helped add depth to the story if we had gotten some more outside views. I don't know if you guys saw the Hunger Games movies. I feel like probably everybody has.
Good.
How in the books we only get what Katniss is experiencing, but then the movies added the what's happening outside in the factions. And I feel like this book really would have benefited from having maybe 1 page little vignettes every not in between every chapter, but every so often, like
Yeah.
showing what's happening elsewhere.
Yeah, some sort of like newsreel or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
That
felt
would
like the scope of the book was really narrow for how big a concept it was. Like even the author's note where she's referencing like the Mexican immigrants that are separated from their children, and then all like Black Lives Movement, like all of that stuff. It didn't feel like we ever got a reference for that, which at the same time, this was obviously about Muslim Americans and being treated horribly, but it felt too narrow at times.
Mm-hmm. It didn't like obviously the stakes were very high, but it didn't feel that high because like we only knew what we knew, you know?
Yeah. And that was when, go ahead, Tehreem.
It vaguely mentions that there were protests outside the White House, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much all. I think that's all it mentions. There's nothing else.
Yeah. I think that it would have done good for the story to give us, like, the only thing we hear from Jake most of, like just keep your head down. There's stuff going on that you don't know about. Like, that kind of feeling from him and, like, sentiment from him. But I wish that we would have gotten that perspective, that bigger one, so that we could watch how Layla was doing, knowing that there's bigger things going on at the same time, like having that backstory for ourselves. I guess being shown it, not told it, that would have done well, I think.
Yeah.
And like if Layla had a little bit more agency of the plot, because this was definitely a plot-driven book, rather than the characters doing a lot to move the story forward. Things kind of just happened. Instead of like her actions having consequences, they kind of just, it was definitely like, this is what's happening now. This is what's happening now. But yeah.
But I really liked her protest that she makes. That's one of her big things that she actively makes, and I loved that scene.
Concurred.
I like that she was like, we're gonna do a protest fast, and then she's like Gandhi to, I think it was Sohail, and he's like, we're not all like Gandhi. I'm like, oh
boy.
I think I like the last one the most, like when they like raise their fist, because they do like, I don't know who it is, but someone does mention that like, oh, we're not black, and then she's just like, well, it's not just black people, it's like everyone who is fighting for a cause,
standing up against oppression.
Yeah. And I found that really cool.
Should we start wrapping up, Chelsea?
I think so.
I think we said a lot.
And it's pretty late for other people. What time is it?
20 past 11 here.
Goodness.
Tehreem?
I go to bed late anyway, so it's not like a big deal for me.
I just want to know what time it was where you are.
It's 4:21 right now.
PM or AM?
PM.
Huh?
Yeah, not that you are.
Oh my god! Why? Go to bed.
I mean, I'm a night owl anyway, so I wouldn't be sleeping anyway. I kind of just like stay up and watch YouTube videos all night, so it's fine.
Me too. Oh my god.
Relatable.
Wow.
But I do think we'll wrap it up so that these kids can get some sleep. Jeepers, it's 8:30 here, and I'm like, I'm a little tired.
I know.
Oh no, that's gonna make me on.
No, I gotta go finish up this bad boy.
Are you liking it?
I'm excited to read that, but
it's interesting. I'm not disliking it. It's just, it's reading like, I feel like I'm reading Christine's diary.
A lot of people say that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. It's bizarre. Not bad though, but just bizarre. All right.
Does anyone have any like final thoughts before we end? Any last minute?
Resist.
Yeah, right?
My final thought.
Hell yeah. All right. This live show was a bit of a shit show. But that's what you get when you sign up for the Sassy Book Club, ladies and gents. And anybody in between.
Good work.
Yep, especially when it's on my channel, inevitably.
Although Saajid, I must say, your connection improved drastically. I don't know what you did.
It was like the Lord is with me now. He's like, you know what, sis? I wasn't with you before, but now let's get some redemption. Thank you, God.
Thank you.
I do want to ask, is her other book better? Because I know Saajid has read it.
Her other book, I actually enjoyed this one a little bit more. The other book is just a strict contemporary, and it's not the best. It's very first bookish, you know. It's very debut bookish. Like, I think I gave it 4 stars, but like looking back on it, it's really like a solid 3.5. So
got it.
It's not amazing, but it's good. But she definitely improved with the second one.
It's only up from here. That's exciting. But all right, y'all. I think that's it, unless anybody has some real important last minute thoughts. But for now, thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you guys for being here. It's been a swell time.
Mm-hmm. And our next book is, what is it?
Hot Dog Girl
by Jennifer
Dugan. Yes.
Dugan. And it'll be on Chelsea's channel.
We wanted to pick a really easy, like we only put contemporary options for next month because we both have, Cassie's getting married.
In 4 days.
In 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
My God, yes, sis. Get your men's.
Lock him down.
Yeah.
And then it's busy ass month from there on out. So we just want to pick something fun. The live show will just be us talking about, she was wearing a hot dog costume. Thought?
Oh my God.
You know?
Is it a graphic novel or a...
It's a novel. It's a novel.
Novel, okay.
Yeah, my copy gets here tomorrow. I pre-ordered it.
Nice.
Because she has a hot dog.
Cool.
All right, y'all.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for hanging out.
And we will see you soon.
Yeah. Love you and stuff. Bye.